What's a dead giveaway that someone has come from money? Why don't you just take a month or two off? They think it's weird when people struggle with money. I used to live in Nick and knew a guy who came from huge money who was a trust fund kid and worked in the fashion industry because he loved it. He had an apartment on Park Avenue, had a driver, etc. He was very nice, but clueless about struggle. Every time he'd hear me say something like oh yay, another peanut butter sandwich, he'd just tilt his head and say, if you're hungry why don't you just order delivery or something. He had no clue about things like having $20 to your name for the next 5 days. When my wife's friends' kids, who were like 6, were appalled that they had to carry their own luggage to their hotel room. I was with a group of co-workers and we saw a homeless person sleeping on the sidewalk, and this friend just goes and says it must be nice to have nothing to worry about, just chill and do whatever you want all day. I thought for sure he was joking. He wasn't joking. This might be a dead UK giveaway, but accent. A classmate who came from a wealthy background once demanded to know why my father would talk like that to her parents, like she was offended, that being a working class Scottish accent. When they're in shock that I grew up with 4 people and only 1 bathroom and shower, so you all shared 1 shower? Coming from a working class family and now living in a wealthier area, their casual clothes are the kind of garments I'd save up for months to buy and then wear only on special occasions. Having known quite a number, I'd say hobbies. Things like polo and jumping horses, racing cars, and flying, especially golf and other sports that take money to learn play also to a certain extent. One person into multiple of these is a real giveaway. All true save for racing cars. Poor people love racing, it's just that their car may explode. International students, when one of your floor mates in res just gives all of their clothes away at the end of the school year. I went to college on the West Coast and there were so many Asian students who came from insane wealth. You want to fly to Greece in a few weeks with some of our friends to go skydiving? Can't afford it. Thanks though. Don't worry, I'll pay for the skydiving. Yeah, that's not what I meant. Not only is the ticket not affordable, I couldn't eat or do anything the whole time and would lose my crap job for being gone on such short notice, thus making me broke and unable to make rent. His family is insanely wealthy and he married into more money. Can't afford the ticket. Will take my private plane. Wouldn't be able to buy food. My personal chef will be cooking. I have no money for other activities. On me, of course. I'd get fired. You can be my butler. I have to pay rent. Just bought your building. You're out of excuses, sir. Using the word summer as a verb. I know I'm poor because I need an example to understand this. Their first car is better than any car you have ever owned. Currently sharing a car with my mom. My best friend has had 3 vehicles thus far. She'll probably be getting another as a graduation present. And because of this cannot fathom why my mother can't get me my own. Inviting you on an international trip. I'm from the US and when you say you don't have money for it, they say just ask your parents. They always act surprised when a person can't afford something or has the cheaper version. It's not callous either, and that's the dead giveaway. They clearly just cannot imagine such a reality. At least this is what I observed being the poor kid with rich friends. Mom was big on the company you keep motto. An example, my Phil agrees to help fix my trunk. Spends the entire time talking about how cheap and crappy my car is. Clearly zero awareness that it's the most expensive thing I had ever owned. A friend of mine with very wealthy parents moved into my apt. For a summer, she offered to buy groceries for us, and at the store I watched her casually, unconsciously, reach for the most expensive, fanciest looking version of everything. Grass-fed organic ground beef, etc. Bought all the same items I usually did. Eggs, milk, bread, but the bill was 3 times higher. Speech. Here in the UK we can immediately determine class by the way they talk. A skewed sense of normal, like when there was a food stamp challenge a while ago where celebrities tried to live off of an average food stamp budget. One celebrity spent $29 on things like kale, cilantro, and 7 limes. When you're really on that tight of a budget, you aren't going to waste money on things like a lime a day and fresh herbs. You're going to try to buy cheap, filling foods like bags of potatoes and mac and cheese. But even trying to put themselves in that same situation, their sense of what's normal is incredibly skewed. Anytime they are in charge of making decisions for something that will cost other people money, they rarely consider cost. I'm getting married in July. My best friend, family better off than mine ever was, is getting married in June and I am in his wedding party. Without even asking us first, he went out and bought us all $400 suits for the day, and then told us to pay him back. And then later on we were told about the specific criteria for shoes and belts. Another $140. His wedding party gifted us the ties. What a dong. At my wedding I bought all my groomsmen what I wanted them to wear because if I wanted it, I was paying for it. It's not their responsibility. Edit. Whoa, he just upgraded to a dickhead with herpes. Matching furniture decor. Especially if you have accent chairs or furniture that isn't pushed up against a wall, which usually means you have lots of space in your home. My family always bought pieces of furniture as we needed it and would only switch out if something wasn't working anymore. At that point, functionality outweighed how something might bring the room together or complement the rug. Plus not shoved against walls. Never noticed that, but it's true. Dresses in nondescript, faded and well used clothes, but they are all of very good brands if you look closely. Handles silverware delicately and uses the right cutlery and plate for every part of a meal, even when absolutely blasted drunk. Social media is full of photos tagged in different cities, countries or even different continents without any additional exposition or fanfare announcing their travel plans. To me, the big giveaway are people coming to you, rather than you going to them. My wife and I make a decent middle class income. We have an accountant. I take my car to a car wash for a wash and wax. My wife gets her nails done. I get a massage every few months. We go to the grocery store. We take our kids to swimming lessons. Normal stuff for people of our income level. My in-laws fall into the 1% of income ranges. They do all the same stuff, but someone comes to their house to do it. Their accountant comes to them when it's tax season. My mother-in-law has a regular masseuse who comes to the house every week. A mobile wash and detail service comes to their house and washes and waxes all the cars. During weekdays they have a chef who makes dinner every night and does all their grocery shopping. When my wife's brother was little, the swimming instructor would come to their house to give a private lesson. My father-in-law's company has a hairstylist on the ground floor, primarily for company employees. I realized how poor I was, and how different my mindset is from yours, when I was reading your comment and initially thought you and your wife were the rich ones since you had people doing your stuff for you instead of doing it yourself. Then I got to your in-laws. So interesting to think about the way people interact with and think about money. I won't say surprised, but to some they cannot comprehend having to put something off due to tight finances. For instance, I'm tied between either buying tires or getting my car registered. I'm putting off getting the tires so I don't get a ticket. When I told this to a coworker, they seemed confused as to why I couldn't get it done at the same time. It did not compute with them that I have a very tight budget. When they ask what's your preferred airline to fly, whatever gets me to my destination the cheapest way, they cannot accurately impersonate a chicken. When they think a high cost of entry sport is not expensive. I come from a middle class family, so I was able to play hockey every winter and have decent gear. I knew it wasn't cheap as I didn't get new equipment every year, only when it wore out or didn't fit. When I got to university I met a guy who was adamant that sailing was not expensive. It is so expensive. Yacht club memberships, berth fees, a place to store the boat in winter, and then there's the goddamn boat. A laser costs $2k and over. How is that not expensive? When you're from money, that's when. Posting vacation pictures every month on Facebook, inexpensive places. Miami on Monday, in California Wednesday, Italy by Friday, and skiing in the Alps on Sunday. They get stuff fixed or dealt with right away. Like most people will see if they can fix something on their own, or maybe do a not perfect DIY job around the house, or spend a lot of time researching options. People who are used to money will just pick up the phone and call someone and get it done. People who travel to impoverished areas for a vacation and then act super self-congratulatory about what they saw. It's a dead giveaway someone comes from money when they have to pay to have a humbling experience in their life. When someone else is paying the restaurant bill and they order appetizers, a steak, dessert, and drinks, my family, even to this day, still order the cheapest thing on the menu with water when someone else is paying. One of my little brother's friends comes from a very well-off family. His parents are both anesthesiologists. Hope I spelled that right, Mayo. He's an only child, and I saw that he had no shortage of fancy new gadgets and toys when I visited his place. One time when he came over to our house, he saw that my mom was cleaning the bathroom and remarked, "Mrs. RAWR times mom, I didn't know you were a cleaning lady." We got a good laugh out of that one. Always getting a costly drink and dessert every time they eat out. Or their idea for a cheap restaurant is still too expensive for you. 2 things I've seen from my experience around people in college. 1. When I say I can't afford something and they tell me to ask my parents. No, my parents can't afford it either. 2. One kid legitimately could not understand why poor people didn't just keep a positive attitude, leave the ghetto, go to university in the city, work for a corporation, and make money right away since he thought it was such an easy thing to do. Obviously because they have no money for food or housing, let alone to do all those things. But nothing that was said could change his perspective on this. Truly wealthy people are taught never to discuss things like income or wealth. They're taught that financial matters are private. Maybe not all wealthy people, but old money in the US and wealthy European families tend to abide by this guideline. This also goes for what they may feel are gross displays of money, such as expensive but impractical cars or unnecessarily large over-decorated mansions, because it broadcasts your income or wealth as much as if you just said it. Well, there is coming from riches, and there is coming from wealth. If you meet someone, particularly if they are young, who is good with money, knows about IRAs, CDs, hedge funds, investing, does comparison shopping, and spends a lot for good quality but doesn't indulge much in impulse purchases, they have likely come from wealth. You would think that people who did not grow up wealthy would be excellent savers and investors, but it's often the opposite. People from wealth have been taught over the generations how to maximize their money and play the long game with it. They view having money as a given and aren't in a rush to spend windfalls. They have also often learned that extreme luxury doesn't necessarily bring happiness, and make fewer showy purchases. For some reason people seem opposed to this idea, but it's very true. You don't have the time or resources to learn good money management. All you're doing is trying to survive. It requires a level of stability for people to really be able to step back and look at their financial situation and improve it. I hate it when I have something important that needs to be done, but can't afford it. I can tell the ones that come from money because they'd say something like, "But it's worth it," or "You should just go ahead and do it." It's annoying because no crap, it's worth it, but B, my bank account is sitting at $3 and that exam is $170. I had a friend who was the nicest guy, just a genuine person who wanted nothing more than to fit in. We suspected he came from some money, just by the way he dressed and by his belongings, but we had no clue that his family owned half of fricking Cape Cod. He played the typical middle to upper middle class kid part well, except for one thing. He was incredibly short and borderline rude to any service personnel, waiters, salespeople, etc., to the point where it was super awkward for anyone around. At one point during our first year in college we called him on it. "Hey man, you don't have to be a dong to the Applebee's waiter. He seems nice enough," and was genuinely sorry he brought you the wrong drink. The kid turned the deepest shade of pink I've ever seen. He was so embarrassed. I guess he had never seen any different. His family always treated the help like that, and he was under the impression that this was normal. When the waiter got back he apologized profusely for being rude. The first time I've ever seen this kid flaunt his wealth was to leave a $400 tip on a $50 check for this guy. I'd like to think the kid came to college and this was his most valuable lesson. When people say crap like, "I don't know how anyone can slave away at a desk job," or "Everyone should travel more." Mother, do you think I'm doing this because it just never occurred to me to be rich? You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.